What are the limits? The player base of Destiny 2, a fantasy FPS game created by the developers of Halo, have asked this question time and time again. The hardest challenge in the entire game are raids, 6-man activities that require teams to work in complete harmony to edge out victory against Destiny's hardest foes. But what if you went beyond? Could you complete these activities with less than 6 players? A certain subset of players in Destiny 2 have dedicated years into finding ways to complete these activities with 3 or less players. But what is the limit? A solo raid encounter is the pinnacle of Destiny 2. You cannot physically push the game farther, but trying to reach this limit is another story. While some encounters are soloed within 24 hours of release, some take years to figure out. Atheon times Conflux is the final boss in the Vault of Glass raid, and for the past 3 years, a small group of gamers have strived to do the impossible. How far could they push their limits, and was solo Atheon even possible? This is their story. This is the story to beat Atheon solo. Before starting, it's important to understand how Atheon works. You start this encounter by shooting this box in the center. After a period of time, Atheon will send 3 people into either Mars or Venus, which correlates to a plate in the throne room, and 3 people will stay in the throne room. The people inside need to pick up this shield, which can get rid of a debuff called Marked by the Void, which slowly makes people blind. While they are doing that, the people in the throne room need to stand on the corresponding plate to the planet the people were teleported to, and then call up oracles, which are these floating red boxes. There are 3 that comes in a certain order, which you need to communicate to those who were teleported so they can shoot them in that order. After 3 sets of these, damage starts. The people who were teleported can now go through the portal, and you have 30 seconds to do damage. If you don't kill him, you repeat what you just did. If you get rid of all his health, you have successfully defeated Atheon. And before we get to the solo, we need to talk about some obvious issues trying to do this encounter with less than the normal amount. No matter what, Atheon will teleport 3 people to either Mars or Venus. This means that if you're trying to 3-man the encounter, everyone will be teleported to Mars or Venus. The mechanic I didn't mention in Atheon is lost in time. If no one is in the throne room for more than 2 or so seconds, Atheon will wipe you or kill you. So the first thing that needed to be discovered was how to not be teleported. Within 3 days, 3 strats have been discovered. First is the suicide method. When you die in a restricted zone where most raid encounters are, you have to be revived by an ally. If you die in a non-restricted zone, however, you can revive yourself after 5 seconds. Before the encounter starts, the entire room is a non-restricted zone, meaning you can die and revive yourself after 5 seconds. If, however, you have someone die, then you start the encounter, the dead person has the ability to revive themselves whenever they want. So they wait for the other 2 people to get teleported and then respawn themselves. This only works for the first phase since you are only in a non-restricted zone before the encounter starts. The second method is similar. Have someone die and then just before you get teleported, revive the person. That person gets revived and doesn't get teleported, allowing them to stay in the throne room. The third is not only the most effective, but one of the most important glitches to this entire story. This is the finisher glitch. The exact mechanics of this glitch are not entirely known, but relies on a mechanic called a finisher. When an enemy is low enough in Destiny, you can perform a finisher on them. This locks you in an animation where you kill the enemy. The finisher itself has practical uses in game, but for us we're only looking at the glitch. When you perform a finisher, you are temporarily intangible. The game remembers where you were by putting a fake copy of you where you started the finisher, and when you finish the animation, it puts you back nicely. But what happens if you move between the beginning and the end of the finisher? It just moves you back to wherever you started the finisher. But what happens if, let's say, you get teleported to another dimension? Well, the game does this. the game reverts you back to your original position, and just like that, you're back in the throne room. This single glitch made Lowman Atheon not only possible, but consistent and intriguing. With this glitch in mind, and both Duo and Trio Atheon already completed, the race was on to find a way to do Solo Atheon.
Oh my god! Oh my god! He's
Solo Atheon was defeated 54 days after its release by a player named Shifu, the same person to be the first to Trio and Duo Atheon. So how did we get here? Is this the end of our journey? Let's first go over how Shifu managed to pull this off. This all starts from, of all places, the mind of a Redditor. On July 5th of 2021, a user named Spaznips posted his personal ideas for how to solo Atheon up to damage. The ideas he had revolutionized the way in which Atheon was soloed. To start, we have the obvious issues. When doing a duo, someone stays in the alternate dimension, where the other player does the finisher. What I didn't mention is that when the player does the finisher, the game gives them the Marked by the Void debuff, something that makes you blind and can only be cleansed by the person with the shield. Another thing I didn't mention is that the enemy inside of the alternate dimension, called a gatekeeper, makes the portals not work unless you kill it, meaning the people on the outside can't go in, and vice versa. When doing a two-man, the player who stays in this realm grabs a shield, kills the gatekeeper, and cleanses whoever did the finisher glitch. This allows the person in the throne room to not only read the oracles, but to open the portal. When solo, you need the relic, but you get teleported out of the room. Additionally, you need to kill the gatekeeper, but again, you are teleported out of the room. So how do you bypass this? Well, Spaz came up with an ingenious solution. He found out that when doing the finisher glitch, there's a small window at the end of the finisher where you are actually actionable before getting teleported. You have about 1 second to do whatever you would like. Spaz also found out that you can pick up the relic in this small amount of time, but only from 2 of the 3 possible teleportation spots. But even if you do get the relic, you need to kill the gatekeeper that is somewhere beyond these steps. Enter Witherboard, the gun that applies a damage over time to enemies. You could, theoretically, pick up the shield and shoot Witherboard in the tiny window you have. And if you do, it looks like this. Now, you are outside with the relic and you're able to open the portal. The person, in addition to doing that insanely fast swap, has to read what planet they were teleported to and set on the corresponding plate. Now, you have the next problem, oracles. In the two-man, the person in the throne room called the order and the person inside shot them. Now, you have to do both by yourself. Remember that if no one is in the throne room for about 3 seconds, you will wipe. So after reading the oracles, drop the relic and go in and out of the portal until you shoot all 3 with a sniper. Do this 3 times and it's on to damage. Atheon has 8.7 million health, and you have 30 seconds to damage him, a nearly impossible amount of damage to do. In this raid, during this damage phase, however, you have some help in the form of a buff called Time's Vengeance. With this buff, your super and abilities charge extremely quickly. You have a total of 4 damage phases to kill Atheon before he kills you. So even if you could perform the near impossible shot to get the damage, you have to somehow squeeze out more than 2 million damage per phase to solo. Many teams at this time struggle to do sufficient damage with 2 players, and this you have to do damage all by yourself. It took Shifu 100 hours and over 1,000 attempts, but he had pushed Atheon to its limits. But 5 months after this historic moment, in December of 2021, Bungie made a change that would send the community into a flat spin. An irreparable amount of damage was to be inflicted when they patched the finisher glitch. Forget the solo for a second, this affected all Lowman's of Vault of Glass. How it works now is by leaving the area Atheon can teleport people from for a brief period of time. This is done by using a warlock ability called Heat Rising, which allows the user to float indefinitely, or more importantly for this, float up sloped walls. The player goes out of bounds for a couple of seconds while Atheon teleports, and then does the normal reading and plate cycle. With that done shortly after the patch, surely someone would redo solo Atheon, right? The thing was that with this change, not only was solo Atheon difficult, it was, as far as the community was concerned, completely impossible. With this glitch, a solo player could stay outside and not get teleported, but then they couldn't grab the relic or open the portal, since the gatekeeper is still alive. Okay, so what happens if you get teleported in? Well, since you can no longer get pulled out, you die to lost in time. You can't go in and you can't go out. You need to find a way to be two places at once, something that is impossible. This single change made solo Atheon unreachable. The solo Discord server, run by legendary player The Snazzy Rock, didn't even list it as theoretically possible, much less practically possible. To understand how impossible an encounter is for it to be theoretical, take Taniks. In this encounter, you need to move 4 objects across the map to start damage. The only issue is that one person can only pick up 1 at a time. You need to pick up all 4 before 10 seconds pass, or they will explode, killing you. Well, there's a glitch that happens about 1 in every 100 times a bomb explodes and it doesn't kill you. In addition, each of the 4 bombs has only 1 place it can go out of 4 potential places, adding even more randomness. Compile this with 3 phases of damage, and you're looking at a 1 in 46 octillion chance of passing this encounter. Despite this, it is still theoretically possible. Atheon wasn't even in this limbo stage. Everyone had given up, except for one man. This is helpful. He was one of the first to do dual Atheon, and he's a highly skilled Lowman player. He's certainly a character, but unlike those around him, he didn't care for what was impossible. For some stupid reason, he decided to find a sliver of hope for Atheon, and what he found opened the next chapter of solo Atheon. If you thought the finisher glitch was crazy, this pushes it to a whole new level. This is the clone glitch. Once again, the exact mechanics of this glitch are not entirely known, so I'll answer to the best of my abilities. Remember how the finisher glitch worked? You did a finisher, the game stores your previous location by putting a copy of you where you were, then it would teleport you back, and then you could play the game. Well, Bungie got rid of the teleport back. But this little guy stayed for a split second afterwards. Helpful discovered that if you didn't move, the clone would stay there, acting as an untouchable guardian. This clone couldn't do much, but the game treated it as a player. So if you perform this glitch on a plate and then kill the gatekeeper, it could activate the plate for you. In addition, Atheon counted this as a guardian in the throne room, so Atheon wouldn't wipe you. With this, however, the obvious issue still stood. Even if you did all this correctly and somehow got into the planet and somehow shot all the oracles by chance, which is a 4 in 1,000 chance, you would somehow have to make it back to the portal to get to damage, so something that can't be done in 3 seconds. Helpful, however, thought of a solution. This is well skating, a mechanic in Destiny that allows the player to gain a ridiculously large amount of speed in a short amount of time. It does this by canceling a fast sword swing, preserving the initial momentum, and sending the user flying. Speed and precision of the inputs that need to be put in, which are jump, heavy attack, and super, are tight. This isn't even mentioning the precision of the initial sword swing to get to this mount. If you manage to do all of this, you are now outside of the portal and can shoot the oracles. Though there's still a glaring issue, one Helpful couldn't overcome. If you did all of this perfectly, you would still have to guess the first set of oracles, which is a 1 in 6 chance, which, considering Taniks, wasn't that bad. But the main issue was with the relic. Since you had to do multiple inputs with the sword, you couldn't pick up the relic, meaning you would have the marked by the void debuff. This didn't do much except force you to play the rest of the encounter blind. While Helpful did have a way to read the oracles through the sound, you would have to somehow not get killed by ads, blindly shoot the oracles in the order you got by memorizing 6 different sounds, and then do extremely high damage completely blind with nothing to guide you. Safe to say this was still impossible for any human to perform, but since it was technically possible, the solo server added to theoretical solos. A step in the right direction. Helpful took a break, and once again the community left the solo alone. The Discord channel had some interesting ideas, but none of them were successful. Then, to further the issue, on October 4th, Bungie nerfed Eager Edge, making this strat impossible. The community was back to square one, but on the same day, this happened. Helpful is back once again with a new and improved strat. This new tech is called a ground skate, and it had been known about for about a month. How it works is essentially the same as the previous skate, but unlike the previous skate, which required you to be on the ledge, this can be done, as the name suggests, from the ground. The tech worked by jumping and then instantly doing a light attack, followed by a jump and then a super after 5 milliseconds. The button to pick up the relic was added on the front, and if your aiming and timing was right, you could bounce off of this pillar and go into the portal. With this, the community was whipped into a frenzy, and within 3 days the strat was optimized slightly. Since you couldn't get out of the portal to read the first 3 anyway, the decision was made to stay up here for the first set. Then you could skate to the portal, drop the relic, and then you could carry on as normal. And by normal, I mean executing extremely precise movements and reads to maybe potentially get through a phase of oracles. The 1 in 6 chance of correctly guessing the first set of oracles is compounded with the 1 in 2 chance you get teleported to Mars. This means 8% to get the luck to be able to get to 1 damage phase, and 1 in 144 to get the second phase. If you didn't 2 phase, well, good luck with your 1 in 2,000 chance of getting to 3rd phase. For the first time in a while, this was humanly feasible. But as the community looked at this new strat, people became disinterested. Imagine spending 36 minutes to get the luck to have 1 attempt at a ground skate, to get 1 attempt to choke with a relic, and 1 attempt to shoot the 3rd round of oracles blind. But yeah, I didn't mention that even with this strat, there was no time to cleanse for the 3rd round of oracles, since you couldn't bring the relic out of the portal, meaning that you would have to read and shoot the 3rd round completely blind. It was not only boring, but mentally draining. Soon, the hype passed once again, and one by one people stopped trying, until the only 2 players playing were Helpful and Mars. Soon, Helpful had to take a break, and in turn, so did Mars. Helpful was looking for a way to reduce the RNG, so that 92% of the runs were doomed to fail, but he looked to no avail. The next year can really only be described as a dark age. November came and went with no changes, and while Helpful returned for a brief period during December, he couldn't put anything together. People found a way to make it slightly more consistent via a small movement within a 1/10 of a second of being teleported, but this did little to change the already terrible precision involved. One strat was found that made it so you could shoot each one with a single sniper shot and then break a Warmind cell to break all 3 at once. And if you did this, you wouldn't have to worry about the order. But Warmind cells would be removed from the game in just a few weeks. Another optimization was found that allowed you to regen your melee with the shield equip, allowing you to cleanse yourself so that, theoretically, you could do the 3rd set with vision, something that's never been possible before. In this brief window, the GOAT stepped in to take out Atheon. Snazzy Rock decided to commit to getting the solo on January 24th, and after 1 week he quit. With this, the channel went dormant until March, where we're back! With the cells removed now, it brought everyone back to square one, an 8% chance to get to damage phase on top of incredibly difficult execution. No one was up for it. At the end of March, another player decided to give it a try. Like everyone before them, they gave up. By April, one player got so fed up of people suggesting stupid things that they posted this. May had a promising glitch, but it proved unhelpful. June came and went with no change, and as July was closing, it seemed it would be the same story. RNG Reduction had come after nearly 2 years. Shockingly, nearly a year prior to this, Mars had theorized a similar strat. But how did this work? Like I said from the Warmind glitch, if all 3 oracles were destroyed at the same time, the game wouldn't wipe you for shooting the wrong order. This broke all 3, but in a more complicated way. Start by shooting a rocket with the perk Lasting Impression at the farthest oracle, which attaches a rocket to it, which explodes after a short period of time. Then shoot 3 Skyburners O shots into the closest Oracle. Then switch to Mountaintop, which is a handheld grenade launcher. Just before the rocket explodes, shoot the grenade launcher and switch back to Skyburners to shoot the closest Oracle. This makes all 3 explode at once. With this, the only RNG needed was to spawn in Mars, 50-50. After 2 years, you had a 50-50 chance. And that's only half correct. Some spawn locations were whack, meaning oracles were hidden and the ground skates didn't work unless you had perfect movement for a small window after being teleported. In addition, sometimes the gatekeeper would move, since you can't see them, and you could often miss. If they stay alive, you can't leave. All of this gets complicated, and to be honest, some of this is above my pay grade. Suffice to say that despite this newfound hype, this is still one of the most challenging solos in the entire game. With brutal execution of RNG, the best still struggle to get consistent runs. This strat was optimized, but was still extremely punishing. The timing here is ridiculous, and only helpful was doing serious attempts at the time. Another issue was blindness. If you did this strat, you'll come out of Mars and have to do the melee strat nearly completely blind, since you don't have the time to cleanse yourself. And if you tried to pick up the relic in Mars to cleanse yourself before the first set of oracles, it would drop right in front of you, making oracles impossible to hit. I want to re-stress something that took me a while to realize. I'm saying these new strats, how to get out of the portal, how to break the oracles, but the reality is that despite all of the work put in by dozens of dedicated players for the past 2 years, no one had seen a damage phase. No one had damaged Atheon once solo. Damage strat had been theorized and proved before, so if anyone actually got to damage phase, it would soon be over, but no one could get there. Helpful started making strong progress though, and got to 9 out of 9 oracles twice in mid-September of 2023, but never managed to get to damage phase, dying too early. He was so tantalizingly close to his goal, but it laid out of reach. And then, the game had a strange phase. A small glitch was found, and it looked like this. With this glitch, all anyone had to do was get to damage phase, and that is exactly what Helpful was going to do.
Oh my god.
982 days was Helpful's final count. For nearly 3 years he had worked on this, and the community was stunned. But this isn't the end of our journey. Whilst this feat is amazing, it was done using a game-breaking glitch. Using finishers to create clone copies to be 2 places at once was acceptable, but funny guns were not. For this to be done legit, 2 damage phases would have to be completed, doubling the luck needed to clear. So 2 new strats were invented by Neon. First, he found a way to use Virgil's curve to be able to drop the relic so it didn't obscure your vision, allowing you to shoot 2 sets of oracles inside of Mars and to not be blind. The second strat involves some tight movement to move upwards and to be able to see all oracles from any location. With these 2 strats, the limit was close. All anyone had to do was break through. CPZ was the first, his name etched forever into Destiny history as the first player to solo Atheon post-patch. Dabs followed soon after, with Neon right behind. And finally, after over 1,000 days, so did Helpful. This community is never satisfied. What people think the limit is will always be pushed. Every single encounter in Destiny 2's Vaulted class couldn't be completed solo. Could someone do each encounter back to back without dying? The game's limits are always pushed, and only one question remains. Where are your limits? Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. I want to thank everyone in the community. We spent so much time working on this, and I just get to sit back and watch this amazing story unfold. I'd name names, but there's really too many to count. I'll name a couple. Helpful, Neon, Bacon, Dabs, Glue, CPZ, Mars, Hobo, and so many others have helped make this journey what it is. And it's been amazing to try to chronicle all this. It's been really confusing. I'm not that good. But it's just been an amazing experience, and congrats to all the victors, and hopefully we'll see solo all of Vault soon. That's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.